This is Kirk Sinclair, the hiking humanitarian, and I'm speaking with Mother Marjorie Bevins, an Episcopal priest here for the Good Shepherd Episcopal Church in Parkersburg, West Virginia. And she has spent time up in Alaska, Point Lea, and working with Inuits and establishing a church up there. And want to find out from you, Mother, what dividends are that you mentioned that these peoples up there, the natives received up there. What are they? Why did they get them? And what impact did it have on their culture?
Well, from my understanding of it, back in 1973, there was a move among the native people that were organized in Alaska to give permission, basically, to outside corporations to come in and to mine or to drill for oil or to dig for copper. There's a lot of copper up there. Timber. They had looked at the experience of the native peoples of the lower 48 and thought that perhaps they had traded away their native lands too readily, or further back had had them taken from them. But they decided to go to Congress and make an act that would entitle them to some profit, some percentage of the profit for outside groups that would come in and make use of the natural resources there. And they became pretty quickly dependent on that income. The cost of living up there is phenomenally high because you have to fly everything in, or it comes more slowly on a barge. You can't just drive things up there. They do have an odd growing season. It's a long growing season when during the summer when the light is 24 hours a day, but most of the time in the winter they don't have much access to light, so they don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables unless they're flown in from mostly Seattle. But if you can add the transportation price of just food up, it ends up to being, back in, when I was there in 1997, about a $10 a gallon price for milk, which was pretty steep with me coming from the East Coast and being surrounded by dairy farms. I was quite shocked by that. The long-term effect that I've noticed with the people, though, is that they no longer have to rely on their native skills, on hunting and fishing, and on the crafts that went along with the hunting and fishing, making the nets and hunting in the way that their ancestors had hunted, because they could now receive a dividend check, usually I think it was once a year at that point, and could go to a store where highly priced goods were flown in from far away. And I think it began to erode their sense of who they were and their confidence in being able to make it on the land without depending on money from outside the village or outside the state. It was a pretty alarming thing to see. The elders that I knew and worked with still remembered when they had to fish, they had to hunt, they had to put away the muktuk. The summer that I was in Point Lea, the beluga migration, somehow the people lost track of where the beluga were. And they were used to getting 9 or 10 beluga a season. And the year that I was there, the people were so inattentive that they didn't notice that the beluga were coming around the bend, and they only got one beluga for the whole winter. Now, if they had been relying on that beluga for sustenance through the year, they would have either had to move, or they would have starved, or they would have had to rely on some other form of food. But being a whaling culture, they were mainly the muktuk eaters. And so some of those things that I experienced up there really gave me cause for alarm. I thought, wow, these are people that 100 years ago were quite independent and quite healthy. And they had their lore, and they were able to make it in one of the most just god-awful places on the earth. And the wind blows up there all year long, but in the wintertime, it's just, you can barely stand up in it, much less hunt or fish in it. And
Well, were they? Are they any happier now that they're more dependent on modern ways?
I think you'd have to ask them, but probably if you could talk to some of the elders, they would probably say they're less happy with what they see because the younger generation is just growing up so differently. They have satellite television that comes into the village, and they really have these influences from the lower 48, as they still call the lower 48, which was kind of interesting to hear from folks. They had remembered that history of when they weren't a state. Some of these people were that old. But they see the corroding influence. The kids are growing up thinking, I'm living in this really remote place, and these are, my family. And what young teenager doesn't go through that phase where they say, I really want to be independent, away from my family. I want to be my own person and all that. They see their kids going through that, and they go off. They try to make it in Fairbanks or Anchorage, go to school somewhere, learn a trade, and they have no skills with which to encounter all of those influences, and they get swept up sometimes. And the rate of suicide is high up there. The rate of failure to go beyond high school. I only knew one college graduate the whole time I was there that was a native, and it wasn't that they weren't intelligent or very capable. It's just that when they left the village, it was such a culture shock. They didn't have coping skills. Became homesick terribly quickly. The year that I was there, I think we had two girls graduate and go to the University of Fairbanks, and the first one came back, I think, at Christmas time and stayed, and I think the second one just didn't go back for the next year. And so it's a clash of culture, and it's not that one culture is better than the other. It's just an unfortunate conflict for the folks that really were doing well before we went up there in their own way.
Okay, thank you very much, Mother Marjorie. This is Kirk Sinclair, Hiking Humanitarian.